Good afternoon. We will now call the Senate Committee on Natural Resources to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Flores, Senator Goycochea, Senator Hansen, Senator Bazina, Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much. We do have 4 members present, so we do have a quorum, and please mark Senator Flores present when he arrives. A few housekeeping notes for everyone before we begin. We'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones and electronic devices. Otherwise, Senator Goycochea will be stepping down and answering your calls for the remainder of the day. The public is advised that during meetings, legislators and staff are using laptops to view bills and exhibits and not for personal reasons. So we're just trying to be as paper-free as possible, and please don't see this as a sign of inattention or disrespect. Please note that we require everyone to submit exhibits in an electronic format the day before the meeting, and we thank everyone who's presenting today very much for being on top of that. A few reminders about testifying before the committee. Please sign in at the table by the door. Do give the committee secretary your business card if you have one prior to testifying. And even if you're not testifying, you may still want to sign in by the door so that there's a record of who has interest in a particular bill in case the committee would like to reach out to you at a later date. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state and spell your name and share your affiliation, if any, for the record. Then when you've done speaking, you've completed speaking, please do turn off the microphone. If you have any handouts for the committee, we ask that you provide 10 hard copies to the committee secretary for use by the public. We will be taking public comment at the end of each meeting, and we'll be limiting that to 2 minutes per person to ensure that everyone does get an opportunity to speak. Please feel free to provide any additional comments in writing to the committee secretary, as we would definitely love to make sure those are added to the records. Today, we're going to be hearing 2 bills, and we will be going out of order. So we'll be starting today with AB 162, establishing provisions governing the use of, and I'm going to say this incorrectly, neonicotinoid pesticides. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Please come on up to the table, and you're welcome to start when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Chair Pazina and members of the Natural Resources Committee. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Michelle Gorlow, representing Assembly District 35 in Clark County, Nevada. I am pleased to be here today to present Assembly Bill 162. With me today is Kelly Kelly, Executive Director with the Fallon Food Hub. Jay Feldman may or may not be joining us on Zoom. He's the Executive Director with Beyond Pesticides. I've got Dr. Matt Forrester, Professor of Biology at UNR. And sitting behind, who will come up in a little bit, is Anna Tatarko, which I probably butchered too, sorry. She's a PhD student, doctorate student, researching neonicotinoids in the ecology department at UNR. This bill addresses the overuse of harmful neonicotinoid pesticides by non-licensed, non-commercial users. Negligent overuse of neonicotinoid pesticides has been associated with health problems in humans, harm to animals, and a reduction in the population of pollinators, notably bees. The neonicotinoid pesticide first emerged in the 1990s. They've been widely used in agricultural, landscaping, and veterinary products. One of the most common concerns, again, of the neonicotinoids is the impact on bees and other pollinators. Neonicotinoids are systemic, meaning they are absorbed by plants and persist in the plant tissue. Neonicotinoids can be present in pollen and nectar, making them toxic to pollinators that feed on them, and they can suffer from disorientation, impaired navigation, and reduced reproductive success. The loss of pollinators can be a cascading effect on the ecosystem, leading to declines in plant populations, reduction in biodiversity, and negative impacts on food security. Neonicotinoids have been linked to negative impacts on other non-target species, such as birds, bats, butterflies, and other beneficial insects. Studies have shown that exposure to neonicotinoids can cause behavioral changes, reproductive failure, and mortality in these species. Furthermore, neonicotinoids are known to persist in soil and water, leading to long-term environmental contamination. They can also accumulate in the food chain with potential risk to human health. Some neonicotinoids have been classified as potential carcinogens as well, and are suspected of causing developmental and neurological disorders. Given the growing influence of the harmful effects of neonicotinoids, it is important to limit their use. Alternatives to neonicotinoids, such as integrated pest management practices, biological controls, and non-toxic insecticides, can be effective in managing pests while minimizing harm to the environment and human health. With that, I am going to start summarizing the bill real quick, and then we'll go over to our co-presenters. We'll start with Section 1 of the bill, which provides definitions of neonicotinoid pesticides, and I'm not going to try to pronounce those. I was good enough with the neonicotinoid. It prohibits their purchase and use on plants not grown for agricultural purposes. Commercial agricultural uses of neonicotinoid pesticides will still be allowed. And I'd like to let the committee know that we've been in discussion with the Department of Agriculture, and they are comfortable with these amendments that we have included. The bill also provides additional exceptions to the prohibition for certain uses of neonicotinoids as long as they are used for specifically directed by the product label and instructions for pet care, the veterinary treatment, outdoor items, structures, such as buildings and not used on plants, wood preservative pesticides and pesticide-treated wood products for termite use, and then the structural insulation as well. So those are exempted uses for it. The bill also defines commercial agricultural purposes and provides that a person seeking to apply a neonicotinoid pesticide for commercial agricultural use must obtain a certificate with the Department of Agriculture. And lastly, I'd like to note that the provisions of this bill become effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting regulations and performing other preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2024, for all other purposes. And with that, I will turn it over to Kelly Kelly.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Chair Pazina, and members of Senate Natural Resources. My name is Kelly Kelly, and I'm the director of the Fallon Food Hub, which is a nonprofit that works to support small to medium-sized agricultural producers in northern Nevada. We aggregate, sell, and distribute fresh fruits and vegetables that are raised right here in our communities and by our neighbors. Our Nevada farmers grow a wide variety of produce, and they do it using all different sorts of methods. Some are flood irrigated with surface water, some are dry farmed, and others are fed through drip irrigation. They grow plants conventionally, organically, and some with no-till regenerative systems. There are many things that our Nevada producers and produce growers have differing opinions on, but one thing that brings everyone together is the importance of bees and other pollinators. Bees are keystone species, which are species on which other species in an ecosystem largely depend, organisms that help keep the whole system together. Since 2018, beekeepers in the state of Nevada have reported the highest level of bee colony collapse in the country, with 71% colony loss reported in 2019 and an additional 53% loss in 2020. Bees are among the most important pollinators of fresh fruit and vegetable plants, as well as silage field crops like alfalfa. In the United States, the economic value of pollination services provided just by native insects alone is estimated at over $3 billion annually. And at least 1/3 of the world's crops and 90% of all plants require cross-pollination or self-pollination to spread and thrive. In Fallon, in case you haven't visited us before, we really love our cantaloupes. And whether or not you look forward to the yearly harvest of hearts of gold, those cantaloupes, along with apples, asparagus, broccoli, squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, and watermelons, just to name a few, grow fruit thanks to bees. In order for these plants to produce the food items that we rely upon, pollen must be transferred from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower, and that vital work is completed by bees and other pollinating insects. In fact, bees are directly responsible for 1 in every 3 bites of food that humans consume. By some accounts, science-based and peer-reviewed accounts, the use of neonicotinoid pesticides is highly likely to be responsible for triggering colony collapse disorder in beehives, including data that demonstrates that exposed hives have a 50% chance of surviving the winter after exposure to neonics. Currently in the state of Nevada, a person is able to buy neonicotinoids for application to plants outside without even really knowing about the implications of that pesticide use. The Environmental Protection Agency allows consumer retail products to include neonicotinoids as an ingredient at rates that are 120 times higher than what is typically applied in an agricultural setting. Aside from a small bee hazard label, there is no requirement to communicate the harm that the inclusion of neonicotinoids as an ingredient causes to pollinators. Neonics are added as ingredients to fertilizers and other products that aren't even marketed for the treatment of pests. And when the treatment of pests is necessitated, there are a number of alternatives to the use of neonicotinoids that are effective and significantly less dangerous. There's a French study that was recently published in the National Library of Medicine that identified that in 96% of over 3,000 case studies that they evaluated, an effective alternative to neonicotinoids was readily available. And in 78% of those cases, there was at least one non-chemical alternative method that could be a replacement. I've spent a lot of time in Assembly Natural Resources this year, and as we were leaving that chamber after presenting to the Assembly Committee last month about healthy soils, I was talking with my friend Farmer Joe Frey about neonicotinoids. His words stuck with me. He said that after doing some research into neonics, initiated by this piece of legislation, he called his agronomist and said that he wanted to ensure that neonics were 100% eliminated from any product that he used on his commercial agricultural farm. And then he told me that he is of the belief that our world would be a much better place if neonicotinoids were never developed. I think that just says about everything that needs to be said. They're a solution to a problem in which the solution itself is more problematic than what it was created to fix. And with that, I'll pass it on to Matt.
Great, thank you. It's a pleasure to address the committee. My name is Matt Forrester, for the record, F-O-R-I-S-T-E-R. I'm a professor at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm speaking on my own behalf. If any of you grew up in Carson City or Reno or anywhere in northern Nevada, it's likely that you had an elementary school teacher at some point go out into neighboring yards or open areas and collect caterpillars of monarch butterflies and bring them back as a class project. That doesn't happen anymore because it's too hard to find the caterpillars these days. Currently, elementary school teachers in Reno have to order caterpillars in the mail from pretty far away, and that's because the monarch butterfly has been in severe decline. And it's not alone in that. We estimate that there's about 50 other species of butterflies in the West that are in similar peril. Excuse me. And butterflies are also not alone. We know from other labs and other studies that other major and important groups of insects, including bees and other predatory species like ladybugs, are also in declines of about 1% to 2% per year. At my lab at UNR, we estimated that butterflies in the West are declining at a rate of 1.6% per year, which is a compounding annual loss. You can think of that as having about 25% fewer individual butterflies over the course of 20 years, which is pretty staggering. And we know what the causes are. There really aren't any mysteries here. It's habitat loss, which is the paving over of open areas. It's habitat degradation, including pesticide accumulation, and it's climate change. So those are global problems, but there are local solutions to these global problems, and the bill that we're here discussing today is one exciting local solution that would have pretty immediate, exciting impacts positive impacts for insects in our region. And this is an interesting case where the interests of agriculture and natural ecosystems are aligned, because both agriculture and natural ecosystems need a diversity of insects to function. And so this bill would advance that because we have a great diversity of insects in our region that are both benefiting agriculture and native ecosystems. And these concerns for agricultural systems and native ecosystems are frankly far more important than all of the uses for non-agricultural or neonicotinoids put together. I understand that people love perfect lawns and perfect roses, but as you've heard from previous speakers, there are many, many ways to get those things without using this relatively recent class of pernicious pesticides that has been pretty bad for insects. One thing that I love about insects is that they can take a lot of punches and they can be up against the ropes for quite a while, but you give them a little bit of space and they bounce back pretty readily. So I'm hoping that we can do the right thing here today and cast votes to support this bill for the benefit of insects. And with that, I'd like to turn the mic over back that way to Anna Tatarko, who's one of our excellent PhD students in a graduate program at UNR. Yeah, please.
And very quickly, we also have your additional speaker on Zoom now. So when you finish speaking, we are back up and running. And thank you for your patience.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Anna Tatarko. That's Tatarko. And I am, like Matt said, a PhD candidate at the University of Nevada, Reno. But today I'm speaking on my own behalf, not representing the university. But at the university, I'm studying these neonicotinoid pesticides and their effects on bee health. And so I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the science of these pesticides and what we know from my field. So neonicotinoids are designed to disrupt the insect nervous system, and the way they do that is by getting in between nerve cells and blocking cell-to-cell communication. And if enough of these pesticides accumulate in the insect's body, the nervous system can shut down. This is really great if you're trying to control pests, but as we've all alluded to, these pesticides also are relevant for beneficial insects like pollinators. And that is because they are systemic. They get into every type of the plant tissue. They can be found in the petals of plants, the nectar, the pollen, the leaves. And they can persist for a really long time. They're you apply it once and it stays for the entire season. In some cases, they can persist even longer than that. They're also water soluble, so they can move into, if your neighbor sprays these in their backyard, you can get it moving into your pollinator garden, which, is not what anybody wants. Let's see, yeah. But what I really want to highlight today is that there's no safe level of exposure to these chemicals for these insects. Like I said, really high levels of these chemicals can be lethal, but it's kind of like smoking a cigarette. Like if you have one, it's not going to kill you, but it doesn't mean that it's good, right? And so even low levels of these chemicals can have really negative health effects for bees. They can reduce reproduction, so these bee populations aren't increasing over time, they're actually decreasing. They can disrupt foraging efficiency, how well bees are going out and navigating fields. They can disrupt the bee's immune system, so it makes it really hard for bees to fight off parasites and pathogens. And some really cool work out of our lab, well, it's not that cool, but these neonicotinoid pesticides can disrupt how bees learn and remember where good patches of resources are. In addition, these effects can last for multiple generations. Just one exposure to these pesticides can be detected, 2 years later, which is many generations later in the life of a bee. Like Matt said, we know that bees and other insects are in decline due to many stressors, but it's hard to address, like climate change or habitat loss or diseases in these bees. But this is a threat to these populations that we can really easily address by eliminating the non-agricultural use of these chemicals.
Thank you so much. It's like an Emerge mini reunion right here in the room right now. I believe we do have our speaker available on Zoom if you'd like to get started. And thank you for joining us.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Jay Feldman. I'm Executive Director of Beyond Pesticides. We're a national organization that spans environmental, consumer, farm, and farm organizations. Honorable Chair Pazina and members of the Committee on Natural Resources. We're here today in support of AB 162 and on behalf of our network in the state of Nevada. As you consider the importance of this legislation supported by the scientific findings and citations in a prepared statement that I hopefully you have, we urge you to recognize the dire need to improve state safeguards concerning neonicotinoids, hazardous insecticides that harm pollinators, birds, wildlife, soil and aquatic organisms, and human health, as well as contaminate surface and drinking water. AB 162 represents an important step in addressing the gaps, and that's key, gaps in U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and state regulatory action that threaten resident safety and ecological stability in the state of Nevada. The science on the dangers that neonicotinoids pose to pollinators and other wildlife is clear, yet federal agencies have not acted substantively. As the science has emerged, the only changes made by EPA have been limited to neonicotinoid product label changes to the timing and rates of application. But here's the key. Because systemic neonicotinoids are systemic pesticides, they're taken up by the vascular system of the plant and expressed through pollen, nectar, and glutation droplets. They cause indiscriminate poisoning to all foraging pollinators. The chemical effectively turns the plant into a delivery vehicle for poison. Now, you might ask, well, and you will hear from those representing the chemical industry, that these chemicals are tested by EPA and evaluated by EPA. It's really important to understand when you look into that regulatory process, the limitations of the regulatory process. In fact, the regulatory process allows for hazards. It's built into the system. So as state legislators, what we're asking you to do is consider whether those hazards are acceptable, given the availability of alternative practices. And on both counts, we view the effects as unacceptable. I want to give you just one quick example of how the agency, this is EPA, allows a pesticide on the market, and then after the fact finds out that the chemical is a contaminant and causing undue harm. In a 2017 risk assessment document for the most widely used neonicotinoid, which is called imidacloprid, they said, quote, concentrations of imidacloprid detected in streams, rivers, lakes, and drainage canals routinely exceed acute and chronic testing and endpoints derived for freshwater in invertebrates. So there you have it, a risk not even determined by the agency. My statement today, the written statement, really captures for you the state of the independent scientific review that really fills in the gaps where EPA really has not kept pace with the science. And don't forget, you'll be hearing from Chip Alsborn later, who's a national expert on land management. We really don't need these chemicals. We can move away from dependency to land management systems that create ecosystem balance, respect nature, and in a sense, rely on nature to achieve the kind of balance that's required. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any further presenters?
I think we've got enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, Senator Hansen.
Thanks. I kind of an interest. My brother's a beekeeper. Okay, so for 30 years, and I went and dug out my old copy of Silent Spring too. So I read that a long time ago, and looking through that, the question: no safe level, you said, ever. Yet the bill has an exemption basically for commercial use in agriculture. If there's no safe level, why aren't we just saying no altogether?
For the record, Michelle Gorlow, representing Assembly District 35. We did our exemptions because several of the items are not used out where there are plants, such as the wood products. I would love to include agriculture, but I'm sure they'll come to the table and tell you they would have an issue with that. So maybe in the future we can go there, but I think for now we want to make sure that it's out of the hands of people that don't really know what they're doing with the product. A lot of the farmers, they have taken special classes. They know not to spray it when it's raining or when it's super windy so that it doesn't drift into other areas. So for now, we'll leave them alone.
Okay, well, I see JJ sitting out there, so we'll give him a grilling too in a minute. Professor, for you, now the declines in insects. You mentioned that they are resilient. Are there areas that this product has been not used for a long enough window of time to see that the bees bounce back, or whoever, the insect communities that you're describing have actually seen a recovery?
Yeah, I'm Matt Forrester, for the record. It's a great question. Parts of the European Union have banned neonicotinoids, but it's really complicated, and they instantly started giving out all these exceptions. So we really, where people could then go ahead and use certain variants of the neonics. So we really don't have a good case or a test for that, but we have other stressors that have been ameliorated for insects. For example, even giving small bits of restored habitat in the Central Valley, where I have some experience, they can bounce back if we improve the plant resources, and they bounce back really quickly. So they're very good at hanging on to the margins and then coming back when we give them a chance.
Okay, well, no, that's what, correlation, causation, not necessarily the same. That's why I'm kind of wondering, because obviously nobody wants to see declines in nature.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of wondering, in some cases, we've tried to pin it on something, and then when we eliminate that something, we discover that wasn't necessarily what was the problem in the first place. So I just want to make sure if we're going to start eliminating certain pesticides, that, we're going to get rid of something that may have some value, and then we find out it actually had very limited impact on bees, butterflies, or whatever.
Yep, and you're right. And the climate change is a huge issue in our region, and that is stressing insects. And so there are other things to deal with, but this is the most proximate good we can do right now.
Okay, very good. Well, I look forward to hearing more about it. There was no opposition. I checked on the assembly side. It passed. The first opposition I heard actually was today when we got a response from the golf course people. So maybe somebody hears from the golf course. Or last question, I'm sorry, was the EPA. If it's so bad, why haven't these guys just said no nationally? It's kind of unusual, honestly, to have a state legislature start regulating specific individual pesticides.
For the record, Assemblywoman Michelle Gorlow, it is my understanding that it had been removed by the EPA at one time and then it was reinstated. I can only speculate as to why, but other states in the country have gone to restricting the use of the neonicotinoids in response to it being brought back by the EPA.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll ask a follow-up question and then hand it over to Vice Chair Scheibel. You mentioned other states. Has there been legislation like this looking at, here we go again, at eliminating neonicotinoids in other states?
For the record, Assemblywoman Michelle Gorlow, yes, there have been several states that have done. In fact, that's what we mirrored our legislation off of here. For the exact states, I would have to look that up again. I don't have that in front of me. But I want to say there's like 7 or 9 of them that have done this. But I could be just totally making that up right now, too. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. And just let the committee know as you have that. And we appreciate your research. Vice Chair Scheibel.
Thank you so much, Chair. This is just a comment, not a question, about how much I love bees. And I have been a staunch supporter and defender of bees since I began my career here at the legislature. So I am happy to see Assemblywoman Gorlow joining me in this effort to save the bees, and all of you here who are here for the bees. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel we've come full circle here with some bee hearings. Anyone else on the committee? Okay. Seeing no further questions, if you'd like to take a step back from the table, we're going to welcome those to join us here at the table in Carson City who are in support.
And Chair Pazine, if it's okay, I'm going to excuse myself to get to my committee.
Yes, we thank you for joining us, and we know
Thank
you are chairing at 4 p.m. Thank you very
Thank
much. All right. Please step forward for those in support of Assembly Bill 162.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christy Cabrera-Georgeson, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. We're here in strong support of AB 162. If left unchecked, the consequences of neonics could lead to disruptions in our food supply, as well as the collapse of critical ecosystems. We strongly urge the committee's support. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair Pazina and members of the committee. My name is Toby Tyler, T-O-B-I-T-Y-L-E-R, a volunteer member of the Sierra Club's Legislative Committee. I'm giving this testimony for Barry Levinson, who wrote this from her expertise as a medical doctor and chemical engineer. On behalf of the club and our more than 30,000 members and supporters statewide, I'm speaking in support of AB 162. AB 162 bans all non-agricultural use of neonicotinoid pesticides. For the sake of our food supply, we must save our pollinators. Bees are essential for producing our fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, the most healthful foods on the planet. These foods are packed with phytonutrients that are a key to preventing many dreaded diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune disease, and cancer. So it is very scary that our bee populations are in severe decline. In Nevada, we lost 53% of bee colonies in 2019 and 70% in 2018. The loss of bees in the world has shown to cause 500 deaths per year due to lack of healthful foods. There are many causative factors in the bee colony collapse, but a major cause is the use of neonicotinoid pesticides. Neonics, as they're called, are systemic pesticides getting into every part of the plant, as we've heard. So when bees drink nectar, they get a dose of this neurotoxin that causes impaired navigation, impaired foraging, and immune dysfunction. And it can directly cause death. Neonics are water-soluble and seep into our soils and waters, killing aquatic insects, fish, and amphibians. The pesticide kills birds when contaminated seeds are eaten and have been found in 94% of white-tailed deer in Minnesota. Neonics have also been linked to human disease. They have been proven to transfer from a pregnant woman to her fetus and cause serious birth defects. They are causally linked to autism, memory loss, and breast cancer. The good news is there are many safe alternatives to using neonicotinoid pesticides. If we switch to these safer methods, we could save the pollinators, other animals, and improve our human health. For these reasons, we urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind providing that testimony to the committee secretary as well, just so that we have it on record. And thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Kevin Burles. Burls is my last name. I'm a conservation biologist with the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Conservation. The Xerxes Society supports the amended version of Assembly Bill 162. The Xerxes Society, by the way, is a nationwide conservation organization for invertebrates. I myself live in Washoe Valley, and our staff works with thousands of farmers and land managers across the country to create and protect habitat. Insects like bees and butterflies are at the core of a healthy environment, as you have heard already tonight, serving as pollinators of crops and wildflowers, and also serving as food for birds, fish, and mammals. One of the multiple threats faced by these insect populations includes exposure to neonicotinoid pesticides, which are highly toxic, even in small amounts, can contaminate local waterways, and can persist in the environment for years. This bill will limit the use of neonicotinoid pesticides to commercial and agricultural uses, protecting Nevada's urban pollinator communities and the important roles they serve in our local landscapes. Thank you for considering our support.
For the record, Ray Hopper, Hopper. I'm with Help Save the Bees Foundation, and we are in favor of AB 162 as amended. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. I am a Vietnam veteran, a master beekeeper, and founder of Help Save the Bees Foundation. We want you to support AB 162. As amended, this bill seeks to remove neonicotinoid insecticides, the neonics, from non-commercial ornamental use. While neonics are an important agricultural tool when used by trained, licensed, and professional pesticide applicators, it is a threat to the environment in the hands of the consumer. The Help Save the Bees Foundation is concerned about the effects of neonics on honeybees, and the EPA admits that neonics are harmful to honeybees, and they even require manufacturers to put warnings about honeybees on the label. But honeybees are fairly robust critters, and they live in huge colonies. What about the solitary bees? If you follow a honeybee back to its home, you'll likely find a beekeeper who is taking care of these bees. In Nevada, in the Great Basin, there are over 200 species of wild bees. Who's taking care of them? If a honeybee is killed by accident or by pesticide exposure, the thousands of other bees will help ensure the colony's survival. If a single solitary bee dies or can't find her way back to her nest, her whole family dies. The public is becoming more aware of the importance of these little pollinators, and we're seeing these little bee hotels popping up everywhere. Carson City became the first bee city in Nevada in 2018, and Reno became the second bee city last year. Truckee Meadows Community College became the first bee campus in Nevada last year. We like to say that honeybees and the care of beekeepers provide the fruits and vegetables that we find in the produce section of the supermarket, whereas solitary bees give us fruits and vegetables in our backyard. The few research studies that have been done on solitary bees, such as alkali bees and alfalfa leafcutter bees, have shown them to be even more susceptible to the neonics than honeybees. These products can last for months or even years in the soil, killing all manner of invertebrates in the soil. And when the next heavy rain or snowmelt comes along, these toxins wash into our streams, killing the invertebrates that our fish need for forage. We ask the Natural Resources Committee to endorse the amended AB 162 to keep these toxic chemicals off the shelves and out of the hands of the consumers. Save the bees, save the environment, and save the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone who does have written statements, if you'd like to provide those to the committee secretary as well, just to make her life a little bit easier, I know she would appreciate that. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Tara Christensen. I am a PhD candidate at the University of Nevada in Reno, though I'm speaking on my own behalf today, and I study insects. In fact, there are quite a few of us insect enthusiasts in the room today, but I understand that not everybody shares our love of insects, so I'd like to make a short pitch about why insects matter and why you should support this bill. Insects offer aesthetic value to us both by being the most diverse group of organisms on Earth, but also by enhancing the diversity of plants in our ecosystems. They provide numerous critical services that are essential for ecosystem functioning and human welfare, including pollination, natural pest control, waste disposal, and providing meals for other animals. Neonicotinoid pesticides are systemic and non-targeted, meaning they are toxic to all insects that consume them, not just pests. Residual neonics can be found in soils many years after application and often contaminate waterways, affecting aquatic invertebrates, which are also critical to healthy ecosystems. We are in the midst of a global biodiversity crisis, in which declines of insects, particularly pollinators, have been documented widely. There are several causes of insect declines, but pesticide use is among one of the biggest. Today we have a rare opportunity where a simple, straightforward action can have meaningful outcomes for preserving biodiversity and ecosystem health. I urge you to vote yes on Assembly Bill 162 and help protect our pollinators and our planet. Thank you.
My name is Chris Hulsh, spelled CHRISHALSCH, and I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Nevada, Reno. I'm going to be talking about my own research and my own views, and don't represent UNR today. I'm actually a student with Matt Forrester, so I was going to speak more, but he said most of what I was going to say, so maybe a little shorter. And I really just wanted to stress that the evidence of insect decline across the world is great, and the Western U.S. is not an exception. And that rate of 1.6% decline per year is quite staggering when compounded over many years. And as he said, the evidence is quite clear that these things are habitat loss, climate change, but also the overuse of pesticides. And some of our work has, in neonicotinoids have been shown in multiple studies to impact the population level. So we're not just talking about insects being fed neonics in labs. We're talking about people going out looking for bugs and seeing less of them after neonics have been introduced into areas. And neonics in particular are water soluble, and so they can move across the landscape. Some of our own research from the Central Valley of California has found these in plants deeply embedded in wildlife refuges, miles from where they were likely applied in an agricultural context. And finally, insects we talk about pollination a lot today, but they're also decomposers. They're part of food supply, they are pest control, and they're also the most diverse organisms on Earth, as Tara just said. Of the named species we have on Earth, over half of them are just insects, and they are embedded in all terrestrial communities on Earth and are critical components. And making pesticide change really it's the quickest way we can perhaps help these populations, and it really is the lowest hanging fruit we have. So thank you.
For the record, I am Melissa Gilbert, Gilbert. I run a campaign called Bee Friendly Reno. We're rebranding it to Bee Friendly Nevada that helps neighbors communicate with neighbors. This is a paradigm shift to outlaw these for home use, and a lot of people are attached to the little aphids, or being able to kill them on their roses. But the reality is there's so many good alternatives, and for the industries that are not interested in making this shift, I just have great faith that with this change, that they'll be able to innovate and evolve to meet these new situations. We're doing the best we can, and this bill is we've been really working hard to compromise and make sure everybody feels included, and I thank you for your support.
Hi, for the record, my name is Christian Connors, Connors. I'm a PhD student who works in 3 labs at the University of Nevada, Reno. I've collected insects for about 7 years, and my only job here is to point out that pollinators are incredibly important, but these neonicotinoids are very likely to impact a bunch of other insects that are incredibly agriculturally important. My PhD focuses on long-term monitoring, but also on biocontrols, and these biocontrols are incredibly important for controlling things like fall armyworm, Heliothis. I'm so bad with the common names. Heliothis, tomato hornworms, all these things. We do not know if neonicotinoids are going to be killing these biocontrol agents yet. Very little research has been done on it, and the research that has been done is pretty sparse. And so I think that as a prophylactic, this kind of action is potentially needed. So thank you so much for your time, you guys.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, S-H-E-P-A-C-K, and I am here as a citizen and a constituent of District 13 today in support of this bill. I will be brief, as I am no expert. I heard a lot of buzz about this bill, and you see, my honey and I love to garden and identify butterflies with Mr. Burles back there. This bill will ensure we can continue to do so. I will not keep bumbling on. Simply put, it would sure sting if this bill did not pass. It is a real keeper, and I believe the sponsor deserves a high five. Thank you very much.
Well done. How do you follow that?
You don't. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I am also here in my personal capacity as a resident of Reno. My name is Lilith Barron, for the record, Lilithbaran. I run a community mutual aid garden. We serve almost 5,000 meals to folks who are food insecure in our neighborhood, as well as grow thousands of pounds of food, to which I attribute the 80,000 hardest working farm hands that we have at the garden, which reside in our two beehives. I think that they are the reason that we're able to provide this resource to the community, and very honored to be able to testify on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The room is abuzz in testimony. Do we have anyone else coming up in support here in Carson City? All right, BPS, do we have anyone on the phones in support of AB 162?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 162, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right, thank you so much. With that, we will close the support testimony on AB 162 and open any testimony in opposition. If you are in opposition, please come up to one of the three chairs. BPS, do we have anyone on the phones in opposition of AB 162?
If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 162, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right, last call. Anyone in opposition of AB 162 here in Carson City? Be prepared or forever hold your peace. All right, we're going to close the testimony in opposition and open any testimony in neutral. Please come on up. Director, we're looking at you.
Thank you. For the record, before you talk to somebody smart that knows what they're talking about, Trey Abney, representing the American Chemistry Council here in neutral. We just want to thank Assemblywoman Gorlow for working with us. We had added the structural insulation piece to make sure that we could still put those in homes and buildings. So I want to thank you, and we are neutral. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. J.J. Goycochea, common spelling.
I was going to say, could you spell that for us?
Goicoechea. I had to go to the kindergarten twice to get that name right, so that's why I go by JJ. We had to shorten something up. Director, Department of Agriculture, here testifying in neutral today. I would also like to thank the proponents of this bill and Assemblywoman Gorlow for working with us on the amendment. We did have some initial concerns that we're dealing with the requirements of investigating and an additional licensure that would be required on these, so we did have a fiscal note. Those were since removed. And I guess to get right to Senator Hansen's questions, because I can feel him belittling me as we speak. I had to, and I just want let me stop for a minute and say thank you for not going to the Star Wars thing today. I was dreading May 4th. I hate coming here on May 4th. We do operate under the EPA, that federal process by Environmental Protection Agency for operation of the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. So they go through the process of determining and doing the scientific studies on these products, if you will, Senator. And it should be noted that in 2011, the Obama administration actually initiated a review of neonics. The agency published draft assessment in 2017 for several of those, finding most approved uses do not pose significant risk to bee colonies, again, alluding to agricultural uses. The final assessment was anticipated for the summer of 22, but now we expect it to come out later this year in 23. They just do have a backlog. You hit on it. We are a science-based organization, and when the science points that this is the problem and the EPA gives that guidance, then we, by all means, will take those necessary steps. We do not see that today. In addition to the agricultural uses, there are veterinary uses for this. I was kind of shocked to know that there were personal hygiene uses as well. I'm not sure what those are, and thankfully we don't regulate those at the Department of Agriculture. But we do feel that this is a step in the right direction. Obviously, it's that aggressive application. If my wife were to get a neonic and want to treat her flowers outside her house, I don't think she would take a lot of time to measure that correctly and to apply it, and that's where we're seeing a lot of this overuse of it and impacting our bees. Our agricultural applicators are restricted use applicators. We do regulate them, and if we have reason to believe that that has been done incorrectly, we do enforcement and take enforcement action against those, and we would do the same as this bill is written.
Thank you so much, Director. I think you were probably prepared for this. I believe Senator Hansen has a question.
Actually, all the bad bee puns. I mean, last time in this room, I think it was this room, when we had the bee bill from poor Pickard, remember? And that guy got beat up so bad. That wasn't a pun. A couple things. I reached out to my brother, or should ask the bee guys more, but he said beehives have died out in recent history almost completely, I believe, statistic-wise, because of varroa mites and to a lesser extent tracheal mites. Now, the bee industry in my valley of Lovelock, my district, for the alfalfa fields, there's tons of bees that are brought in there all the time. Is the issue this pesticide, or is my brother's concern over mites something that the agricultural people have dealt with?
Thank you, Director Goykachev. For the record, Madam Chair, may I go direct?
Please.
Senator Hansen answered that question. Yeah, so you bring up an interesting point. Mites are definitely a major concern for the bees, and in the 2021 session there was a similar bill, AB 275, and we actually learned that some of those alfalfa seed producers were actually using neonics to protect their crops against the mites. And again, those levels will be different than what we're seeing the average homeowner put on, so they do play a critical role in actually protecting some of our bee colonies against parasites.
How ironic. So maybe that's what I was trying to get with a professor too. Sometimes you try to fix one problem, in some cases you actually make something worse on the other. My understanding is bees are not native to our continent. Maybe that's some for the bees. They're historically, they weren't here. So I'm kind of wondering when the gentleman was discussing bees being, wild bees versus domesticated bees, my understanding basically all bees on the continent are non-native basically. No? Yes? I'm just kind of, the reason I bring it up is I'm kind of wondering historically how plants were pollinated previously to us using domestic bees to do that. But I mean, that's maybe way over your pay grade.
Senator, I cannot answer that question, or you may have to ask the elder.
That's all right. I don't know if it's been here. Honestly, Madam Chair, it's not pertinent to the bill. It's probably something I should take up with these folks afterwards. So.
Sure.
We can answer that for the senator afterwards if you'd like
Very
as
good.
well. And thank you very much.
Agreed. Thanks, JJ.
Can you provide that to the committee in written? Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
And the department would be interested in that as well.
And I believe Senator Goakachia has a question for Director Goakachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to get back to the bill just a little bit. Now, if you're a certified applicator, then you can apply neonics, but can you do them, say, on a commercial applicator, certified commercial applicator? Can you apply it then, say, on a football field or a park? Or with the way I read the bill, it has to be only on an ag operation?
Senator Goycochea, Director Goycochea, for the record, you ought to hear our dinner conversations around the dinner table. Yes, you are correct. It has to be on an agricultural operation that is growing a crop or a product that will be eventually sold. Now, there are other uses in here, as I mentioned, the veterinary use, and then outside structures. You can treat outside your structure. We did hear about the insulation use of that as well. But as far as the golf courses and the other commercial uses, no. The way that this bill is written and how I interpret it, those are no longer allowed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I think you can leave the hot seat. Thank you so much. BPS, do we have any callers in neutral on AB 162 on the phone?
If you would like to testify in neutral for AB 162, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right, I see the Assemblywoman has left, so we are going to close out the hearing on AB 162. And we thank you so much for the great presentations, and we would love to get that information to the committee and to Director Goakachia as well. Thank you very much. And we're going to open the hearing on AB 20, revising provisions relating to water, and we would welcome those presenters forward. And apparently a lot of people were interested in bees and not water today. So thank you so much to all of those attending.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Pazina and members of the committee. I am Jason Cooper, Jason Cooper. I'm the Administrative Service Officer for the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, or NDEP. I appreciate the opportunity to present Assembly Bill 20. This bill is designed to align our infrastructure financing programs with federal program requirements, expand eligible uses of available funds to address current needs in Nevada's water and wastewater systems, and to provide some needed housekeeping. The infrastructure financing programs that are managed by NDEP are the Capital Improvements Grant Program, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. These programs function similarly to a bank or financial credit union, where eligible recipients can obtain loans or grants for funding for water, wastewater, stormwater, or related projects. In most cases, funding is provided through subsidized, reduced interest loans. But in some instances, funding is provided through grants or principal forgiveness loans. The Capital Improvements Grant Program is funded by state bond sales when authorized by the legislature. The Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund programs are capitalized by federal grants and matched by state bond funds. This bill has four main objectives. Number one, align the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund programs with federal requirements, which will open the programs up to more recipients and innovative projects. Expand the eligible uses of the Capital Improvement Grant Program to help with septic to sewer consolidations and wellhead abandonment. Remove the requirements for political affiliation for members of the board for financing water projects. and clean up outdated language in operating statutes that does not reflect current practice or is needed for efficiency and streamlining. There are two sections that I would like to highlight initially. Section 11 currently provides for NDEP to impose and collect a fee from the loan recipients. The State Environmental Commission adopted regulations establishing that fee at 0.5% of the loan amount. The bill language does not change that amount or create any new fees, but proposes to expand the type of entities eligible to apply for the loans that would be subject to the fee, which may result in an overall increase in fee revenue. Therefore, the 2/3 majority vote requirement has been assigned to the bill. The other section is Section 23, which proposes to remove the requirement that no more than 3 members of the Board for Financing Water Projects may be from the same political party. Approval of projects for funding is apolitical, and this proposal reflects the apolitical nature of this body. Diverse representation across geographic regions is more important than political affiliation, and in recent years, the required split has affected at least one board member's personal decision on political party affiliation. Other aspects regarding makeup of the board are unchanged. Those aspects include that 1 member represent Clark County, 1 member represent Washoe County, and the other 3 members represent counties with populations of less than 100,000 people. Additionally, no more than 2 members may be from the same county. I felt that these 2 sections would be of most interest to the committee, but I would be happy to provide a summary of proposed changes in the remaining sections as well, if the chair would like.
Would the committee like to have our presenter review the sections? Are we ready to move to questions? Okay, I think we can probably move to questions. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Yeah, I do.
Senator Hansen, I would have never guessed.
These meetings would be so quick without me in it. I know that's what you're thinking. Thank you, Madam Chair. Section 24, actually, the eligible recipient, pay the following costs, da-da-da. Now, Southern Nevada Water Authority would qualify under this then? Because, you know, we have a bill that we may hear about Southern Nevada Water getting rid of septic tanks and so forth. Is this one of the potential funding sources for that?
Thank you for the question. Jason Cooper for the record. It is. The program doesn't have a limit on the size of community that is eligible for the program, so Clark County would qualify. We are also looking at a community up in Humboldt County as well. There's communities out in Dayton and over in Douglas County as well, so there are a lot that have been coming forward to the SRFs that have similar issues as well.
Okay, thank you. I'd stepped out, so I didn't hear the beginning of the presentation, so if that was redundant, my apologies. Thank you.
We could tell it was bugging you. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that the allocations from this program could be in the form of grants or loans.
Thank you very much for the question. Jason Cooper for the record. Out of the 3 programs, 1 is funded with state bond program proceeds, which we then grant the money out. In the drinking water and clean water SRF programs, the grants have subsidy mandates from Congress where we would distribute the funds as principal forgiveness loans or traditional repayable loans that are subsidized.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Gokachira Flores. Did you have any questions on this? Okay. Are you saving them up in case Director Gokachia comes back?
No, Madam Chair, I'm kind of familiar.
Thank you very, very much. All right, with that, we can have you both step back from the table unless you have any more presenters who plan, okay. For those who would like to testify in support, please come join us in the 3 available seats.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Steve Walker. I'm representing Douglas County. Douglas County Commission, Board of County Commissioners, voted unanimously to support AB 20. The provisions that allow septic tank conversion funding are very important to this state. It individual septics on 1 acre lots with a domestic well are the source of groundwater contamination by nitrates in almost every county in this state. I've worked on that project for 20 years in Washoe County, in Douglas County, Lyon County, and we really never have made progress because there is no funding mechanism for it. This is very important. Additionally, from a personal standpoint, Section 23. I changed my political party in Douglas County so I could vote in the primary election. What happened is that I was also on the board for financing water projects. With the change of the political party, I lost my seat on the board. The issues that we dealt with, I was on the board for 10 years, had nothing to do with politics. Pump stations, water tanks aren't political issues. And I think that is a very important aspect of this bill also. Thank you.
Nix County, City of Reno, for the record. I'd like to just say ditto, but also point out that this will have an impact on urban communities as well. I know that there are quite a few neighborhoods that have been annexed from the county that are still on septic systems that would greatly benefit from this additional funding source. Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Flanagan, representing the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Southern Nevada Water Authority, and we urge your support of this measure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jeff Rogan, representing Clark County. For the reasons that have been presented here today, we urge your support of this bill. We think it's important for the reason that Senator Hansen pointed out. It does allow for an additional funding source for the conversion of septic. Our concerns are less about contamination and more concerned about recovering water into our Lake Mead and recycling that water. So we urge your support of this bill today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Pizzini and members of the committee. My name is Leo Drostoff. I'm a partner with the Perkins Company, and we represent the Truckee Meadows Water Authority. And we work with NDEP throughout the interim and greatly appreciate their efforts on this bill. And Tumwa, in addition to SNWA, would be now eligible for innovative projects that previously they couldn't be eligible for under the Clean Water SRF. So we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else here in Carson City in support of Assembly Bill 20? BPS, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 20, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Candace Townsend, and I represent the City of North Las Vegas. I am testifying in support of AB 20. We believe that by expanding the definition, it will increase the participation in the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, which has provided funding for a wide range of water quality infrastructure projects in our state. We look forward to the continued success of the program, and we will continue our efforts to provide clean water to the residents of North Las Vegas. And we are very happy to support AB 20. Thank you.
Public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. With that, we'll close testimony in support of AB 20 and open testimony in opposition. If anyone's in opposition of AB 20, please come to the tables. And seeing no one come to the front, BPS, back to you. Anyone on the phones in opposition of AB 20?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Well, we will close the opposition testimony on AB 20 and open neutral testimony on AB 20. All right, what about the phones, BPS?
If you would like to testify in neutral for AB 20, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller 559, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Yes, my name is Yvette Williams, and I'm calling in neutral on this bill. I am calling as a private citizen here in Las Vegas. And one of my concerns and concerns of some of our neighbors is that in the can you hear me?
Please continue, and please
Hello?
note that this is Assembly Bill 20 and not Assembly Bill 220.
I understand that.
Please continue
you
when
hear
ready.
me?
Yep, we can sure hear you, but we do need you to continue, please.
Okay, because it said that I needed to unmute, so I wasn't sure if you could hear me or not. Anyway, my name is Yvette Williams. I'm calling in as a private citizen in Las Vegas, Nevada, concerning Assembly Bill 20. However, in Assembly Bill 220, there's a provision only for Clark County for conversions to septic tanks. And in this particular bill, Assembly Bill 20, it doesn't stipulate that septic tank conversions would be any priority or anything like that for those who are being forced to a public system, sewer system. And so one of our concerns is, will there be enough money for those of us in Las Vegas that are forced onto a public system? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we ask that you stay tuned. If there's a hearing ahead for 220, we would love for you to join us then and hear the testimony being provided, which hopefully will answer some questions, and we thank you for coming in on neutral. BPS, is there anyone else at neutral at this time?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Great, thank you so much. Would the presenter like to, okay. With that then, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 20. I agree, quit when you're ahead, right? Our final order of business today will be public comment. As a reminder, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person, but please feel free to submit any additional written comments to the secretary and they will be added to the record. Anyone who would like to make public comment here in Carson City? Seeing no one coming to the front, BPS, is there anyone on the phones who'd like to make public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
All right, thank you so much. A reminder, we will have our next edition of Natural Resources Committee in the Senate at 3:30 in this very place on Tuesday. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.